PD Beats here from Pop Turnus, speaking to Ambar Martinez about The Pitt on Max. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. You're awesome. Awesome energy.
You know what? Weekly drops, 15 episodes, 15 hours. They're all out. Finale just dropped. It's all out there. How does that feel? And how does it feel to be like the first interview we've done that like we could like talk about the fact that they're all out?
Yeah. I watched the finale last night and it was so good.
Yep.
And it was so emotional for me just to watch, because I loved watching it week by week by week, even though I knew everything that happened. Just to see the evolution of these characters. I feel like Santos had a great redemption arc. There's just like a lot of great moments, and it feels incredible to be like, wow, we started in July, we finished first week of February, and now we're finished watching it, and it feels sad, but it also feels like very, I don't know, I feel accomplished. I feel very happy and grateful.
Absolutely. Take me through in regards to like that script to screen journey, because at some point you get these scripts and then like you go into production and you film it. Mm-hmm. And obviously, medical drama, it's both in there, right? So there's the big kind of scenes of like the emergency room and like everyone like getting in the rooms and doing surgeries. And then of course there is the, backstories of a lot of these characters for their conversations and everything. What is that like reading like that balance and then seeing it kind of come to life on screen, so to speak?
It's so cool to see. Like I remember reading like one of our like first big traumas, and Garcia comes in, and it's before I even had met the actress, and you're just like, what is this vibe going to be like against Langdon? And then when she peeps Santos, and like, so seeing them do the procedures and then having this witty banter is just so satisfying to see the actors do it and do their own takes, because we all get the same script, and then it's kind of like, as an actor, what is your version? What is your character thinking in this moment? What is your character's intentions? What are they going through? Even while they're doing all this busy medical procedures and jargon. It's very cool.
Absolutely. There's going to be like big sequences and episodes, right? There's going to be big kind of moments. And I find it really interesting because I know from doing past interviews and also being a filmmaker, there are certain sequences that you'll see on like television that are like 3-4 minutes. And then you find out that scene took like 2 or 3 days to film or something.
Yeah.
When those scenes kind of happen in the pit, because I know there's a lot of those, does it feel like that scene is like its own mini movie, mini show, or does it feel like it's part of the pit as a whole?
That's a great question. Because there's like a lot of big traumas where, because we shot everything so sequentially.
Yep.
Like we didn't really jump around and stay, like some shows you would just finish all the action in that one room.
Yep.
But because it was so interactive, we wanted to catch like, well, this trauma is going on in room trauma 1. We wanted to see what was going on in trauma 2 through like the other side, because they have, those double doors. And it felt like, I don't know, it actually felt kind of part of the pit because it's part of the chaos. And because we didn't shoot it just as one whole scene, like combining it, and because we shot a lot of those trauma scenes like day after day after day, it felt just like continuous action. So kind of both, actually.
It's interesting to think about, right? Because there's these like monumental days. You were all filming this while episodes were rolling out as well.
Yeah,
what was that like, right? Because that's interesting.
Yeah. So we were filming when it came out in beginning of January. We were filming episode 13. Mm-hmm. So we were in the middle of the mass casualty. So it was really cool to be like, to just see kind of the audience's reception to it.
Yep.
And it kind of made you think about some of your choices as an actor too, because once you can kind of see, okay, I made this choice here, and it did kind of guide your performance a little bit.
Yep.
but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool to be filming when stuff is coming out because you're like, oh, I can, you don't realize how much the camera sees because, the camera is just constantly moving. And there's times where I was like, oh, I was in the scene and like I said a few medical words or, whatever. I was like, I don't think I was seen, but I'm just doing my stuff. I'm nurse cam. I'm on top of my stuff. And no, but you would catch like little glances between staff, little like, I don't know. It definitely guides how you act in the future episodes.
So interesting to think about, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's why I started this. Like, I love those like behind the scenes and everything. And like the segment, the next segue too is like a behind the scenes question, but it's like you get in there and you did as much prep as you could do, I guess, to film the Pit on Max. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like at times, it's a lot, right? So it's like, I feel like you can prep all you want, but it's like the question of whether are you ready for this or not is like up in the air, right?
Yeah.
But like, I guess my question, Amber, is conversations. I guess it depends on the show or the movie. But like the conversations are really important, right? Because conversations with, your cast and your writers and directors and showrunners, they can happen in different times of productions. They can happen before, they can happen while. When do they happen for you specifically in the Pit? Were there a lot of before filming questions and discussions? Were there a lot of questions and chats on set? Like, what was that like for you?
So when I first, was discovering, was coming up with my character, finding out more about her with Nurse Kim. It was episode 104. And that's when I have like the most, that's when you get introduced to my character.
Yeah.
And Noah had written that episode. So I got to kind of pick his brain a little bit.
Okay.
And I got to find out actually he has a very sentimental meaning for why he chose the name Kim. And just kind of that she was also like looking at Whitaker as someone who's just having a bad day and he's a empathetic guy and she relates to that. So those conversations happen like a couple weeks before. And then, on the day, if it's something very technical, we have medical advisors, great medical doctors that we could always like get more information from. And then the writers are always on set and the directors. It was just, everybody was just very easily accessible.
So I wanted to kind of ask because, I like the episode, like finale just dropped on Max, so it's out there. And I'm not sure if like you were there while they were filming this, or maybe you could talk from reading in the script, but there's a big kind of like, confrontation that we're all kind of waiting for to happen. And that's with Dr. Langdon and with Dr. Robinavitch. And I wanted to know, like, what was that like? Like, maybe like seeing that or reading that in the script finally, because that was like a big conversation we were all waiting to get right after what has transpired.
Yeah, so I wasn't there. I wasn't there that day. They filmed that on location because that was outside in the ambulance bay, right?
Yeah.
But there's a moment before that we track Dr. Robby coming in after he goes, can I swear on this? He goes, F you.
Yeah.
Right?
You can swear. He goes, fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you. Yeah. And he walks back. I don't know. He walks back in through the ambulance bay. And, Noah on the day, he yells that even though that's out into basically there is no space, on our stage. It's just like ambulance bay, but then there's just like a wall. So he yells that and you kind of, you hear that and you feel that energy coming in and you're like, he just had a tough, bad conversation. And you can kind of surmise that it was with Langdon, but, the other staff pick it up. And reading that though, you're just like, Langdon, just listen to Dr. Robby. He gave you an out and, like he's really wanting to come back and explain his side, but I think it definitely wasn't good timing,
Insane. And I remember, okay, are you ever conscious of the audience member watching the Pit while you're making it? Because it's a very kind of audience engaged show, right? And there's going to be like reactions and their weekly drops. And there's going to be the dinner table conversations. Do you ever think about the audience while you're making it? Or does that happen a little bit after you wrap, so to speak?
I think after we wrapped, because we wrapped February 6th, and which I think episode maybe 105 had come out by then.
Yeah.
Or was coming out that night.
Yeah, they've been rolling out for a while too. That's what's crazy. It's April.
Yeah. So, because it started picking up steam in the audience and the public eye, I feel like we've gotten more and more popular, through February, through March, and now April. I feel like I know so many people talking about it, and so many people be like, I see you. I definitely didn't I wasn't aware about that until like after we wrapped, maybe. The way that the camera is, it does feel very part of the set. Sometimes you forget that the camera is there.
Yeah.
And I know if they were to have bloopers, there'd be so many times where we would just look directly at camera because we don't realize that like Amy or Erdem, who are the camera operators, like are just like, there with us, and you just like look and you're like, oh, and then they were really good at cutting that out. But
absolutely. And we know that the show has been renewed for season 2, which is exciting. Yes. And I did want to kind of ask you, because it's interesting, like the world is so open right now because it's one shift, right? So it's like, are there ever any like thoughts about like we're very preliminary stages. They're probably writing it like soon or something, but it's just interesting, right? It's like, could it be like the day after? Is it going to be another week? Like, it's crazy to think about the openness of that if you think about it, right?
Yeah. What I heard this week is that it's going to be on 4th of July, I think. And that was an article that was released recently. So I was like, that's a great, that there's so much room for like so many opportunities with that holiday, right? That's a crazy holiday.
That's going to be wild.
Yeah.
And but they can watch all 15 episodes of The Pitt on Max. I can't believe that's the first time in the interview I have been able to say that like all 15 episodes are out, which is hilarious. Ambar, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks. It was awesome talking with you too.
And you have an Instagram account, right? It's just your name, but it's Ambar with an A, right? Not an E. Yeah.
Ambar Agogo.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, this is Ambar Martinez, who you can catch in The Pitt on Max, and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.